If you're a first-time founder, you are likely extremely scared about all the things that can go wrong as you are building your company, especially in that first year where you're trying to figure out product market fit, you're trying to figure out how to get to that next stage of growth. Maybe you're trying to figure out how to raise that round of funding. Now, I've been there. I've been a first-time founder. Now, imagine for a second, just for a second, entertain me. Imagine for a second you succeeded that first year. Imagine for a second that you succeeded with that company and you sold that company. And then you went around again and decided you want to build the next company. Imagine for a second you're doing this for the second time around. And those same horrifying things actually happen to you. Well, that second time around, you're not going to be as scared. You're not going to be as fazed by all the things that are coming at you. You're not going to be freaking out. Instead, you're just going to be dealing with the situation and finding a way forward. This is what's called the frame of the veteran. The frame of the veteran is the fact that you have so much experience, you've overcome so much. The second time around, the third time around, when you're building companies, you just know how to deal with the crazy things that happen. This is why second-time founders are so successful. Here's the thing though, even though these horrifying things happen and all the things you're scared of, guess what? They're probably going to happen. There's always a way forward. And yet founders on the other side, they still build those companies again and decide, even though all those things have happened, they're willing to go at it again. So in this episode, I have listed out the 14 most horrifying things that went wrong for me in my first year of starting a company as a first-time founder. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through each and every one of those 14 things. I'm going to tell you exactly what I learned, how I overcame them. And this way, as a first-time founder, as you are going through your first year, you are going to have that frame of the veteran. You are going to be able to overcome all of these challenges that come up, and you're going to be able to accelerate your path to that next stage of growth. Intro. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Unstoppable. I'm TK, and on this channel, I help SaaS and AI founders like you grow your businesses faster with an unstoppable strategy. Now, if you're new to this channel, welcome. I drop an episode every single Sunday with actionable strategies and tactics from the trenches on how to grow your AI or SaaS business faster. So be sure to hit that subscribe button and that bell icon. That way you'll get notified every single time I drop an episode with the TK energy. Now, if you're already part of this community, my people, welcome back. It's really awesome to see you over here. You'll notice I'm in a different location. I'm actually traveling. I've been on the road for the last week, more or less. I started off with Chicago last week, and I was doing a one-day go-to-market immersive where we were figuring out ICP, manifesto, Broadway show for my clients. And then I went back to Dallas for the weekend. I celebrated my 1-year anniversary, and then I flew to Silicon Valley. I flew straight to San Francisco. I took an Uber and went out to Sausalito, where this startup has their offices. Incredible views, incredible spot. And we did a 2-day go-to-market immersive, figuring out ICP, manifesto, Broadway show. And now I'm here. I'm staying in Half Moon Bay just to kind of relax a little bit. And then I'm driving over to Palo Alto first thing tomorrow morning for another go-to-market immersive where we're going to be figuring out, you guessed it, ICP, manifesto, Broadway show. So it's been kind of crazy, and this is going to be a slightly different video. Obviously, it's in a different location, but I didn't want to miss a beat. I wanted to do this episode, and I really wanted to recap all the things that I learned, especially in that first year as a founder. And one of the things that strike me, and I told myself this as I was going through it, is all these crazy, horrifying things that are happening, there's always a way forward. And in fact, that's why I started Unstoppable. The reason I started Unstoppable, the reason I have this channel, the reason I coach founders, the reason I do these offsites that sometimes are totally grueling on my body, but I absolutely love it, is because I can get in rooms with founders and talk about their biggest challenges and be able to look them in the eye and say, look, I've been here, I've dealt with this, here's how we're gonna find a way forward. And there's always a way forward. And the weird thing about this is because I've been running Unstoppable, we're at 6 years now, we've taken 15 companies to $1 million ARR. We've taken over 7 companies to $3 million ARR. And we have a case study coming with one of the founders was at 10 million and took his company to 40 million, following everything that I taught them. Through all this, I learned a bunch of pattern matching, a lot faster. So I saw even more things that go wrong and how to find ways around them. So what I wanted to do in this episode is list out the 14 terrible, horrifying things that happened, and I'm going to walk you through exactly how I overcame them, how I learned to overcome them, and you can too, because you're 99% chance you are going to encounter them. And the craziest thing is this, even though all these horrifying things happen, enough amazing things happened that prompted me to start multiple companies and keep going at it. And that's why you get second-time founders and third-time founders and fourth-time founders, because we just get better and better at the game. And then at that point, it's totally worth it because enough great things happen, we're willing to go at it again. So if you're excited to dig into number 1 of 14, smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm and let's dig right into it. All right, number 1 is I split the first 4 into money and runway, and then I'm gonna be talking about customers and market, and then I'm gonna be talking about product and tech. So the first 4, we'll just go at it one at a time. And by the way, this is a bit of an in-depth video. I'm gonna be going longer. I hope that's okay. I just wanted to serve you, my audience, and all the founders. And I know the founders that I coach watch these videos too, so I just wanted to speak to all of you. First one is running out of money. Now, half the founders I work with are bootstrapped and the other half are venture-backed. But regardless of whether you're bootstrapped or venture-backed, figuring out runway, whether it's cash flow if you're bootstrapped or just runway as a venture-backed founder is always top of mind because early stage companies are literally just at the brink of dying over and over and over. And so this is very real. Multiple times in my startup career, especially as a venture-backed founder, we almost ran out of money. Multiple times we were at the brink of just like, hey, I don't know if we're going to be able to make payroll. There's a couple of things I learned from this. I remember one of the first times we almost ran out of money. In fact, we just weren't going to be able to make payroll. I had to call up my investors, and one of my investors was Dave McClure from 500 Startups. He had been one of my earliest investors. Amazing guy. And I told him, like, Dave, we're out of money, but we're not out of money. And he's like, what are you talking about? Like, you're either out of money or you're not out of money. Like, so we don't have enough money to cover payroll in our bank account. We just don't. We have Silicon Valley Bank. At the time, it was Silicon Valley Bank. However, we have enough one-year deals that we closed where we are owed a whole bunch of money. So we have more than enough money to actually cover payroll. We don't need to raise money right now, but we just don't have it right now. This was right around the time when we were switching from doing just self-service for ToutApp, my last business, to doing one-year deals. And we started doing one-year deals and we're like, oh my God, this is so awesome. They're going to pay us 20K, 30K, 50K. We're starting to get these bigger deals. Problem was we were invoicing them and companies were taking their time to actually pay us. So there was a net 60 delay. They could wait 60 days to pay us. So we closed all these deals, but we weren't getting the cash and I didn't have it in the bank. And so Dave was like, you know what? We'll put in more money. You guys are doing great. You figure out all these things. I was sending monthly investor updates and he was like, I'll put in more money because he knew exactly what was going on. And this was one of the things I learned because I was sending those monthly investor updates. Every month I would email out an investor update, no matter what, just progress on here's what's working, here's what's not working, here's what we figured out. They had a complete trend line of where we were going. So because we were in a pinch, they're like, yeah, we'll put in more money. In fact, multiple times with multiple investors, they actually replied to my investor updates just saying, hey, can we put in more money? Because they just saw the patterns of what was happening. So we got in the money from the investors, but it didn't come in time. So what I did was I just ran payroll anyway. I said like, okay, cool. Well, the investor money is going to come. We're going to run payroll. So that way everyone will get paid. And I logged in the day where payroll debited and our bank account was like negative $30,000. So the investor money didn't come in yet, that wire didn't come in, but the payroll debited. And so I called the bank. I'm like, hey, by the way, we have investor money coming in. So it's, even though it says negative $30,000, we have more money coming in and we have DSOs. So please don't claw that back and let the payroll go through. And thankfully, Silicon Valley Bank worked with us and let the payroll go through and then investor money came. So we didn't run out of money. And that was like literally a couple quarters in. That happened multiple times. Multiple times we were like, oh my God, we're at the brink. We need to raise money. We need to raise the next round. And so between running out of money and missing payroll, these were real fears. Over time, we started to get a lot more sophisticated, at least in my last company, because we were venture backed on making sure that payroll was managed. We brought in an accounting firm. They would manage the payroll. They would manage the cash flow. They would keep the buffer. They started to manage the DSOs to actually collect on the invoices. We came deathly close. We were late, but eventually it all sorted out. And here's the thing, whether you're about to run out of money or not, if you are, you can always go to your existing investors. And as long as they have the context of everything that's going on in the business, then they're willing to make sure that they can help you. Now, if you have a terrible business and there's no money and everything's failing, well, a bridge round may not be in the works. Maybe you have to shut it down. But as long as you have momentum going, as long as you're building towards a stable business, a scalable business, then investors will always want to look at making sure that you just don't die because then they lose their entire investment. The same with payroll. Obviously, you never want to miss payroll, but it's something like it keeps me up at night. Even as a bootstrap company, we had issues with payroll and it kept me up at night. It was the most horrifying thing to ever deal with. But at the end of the day, there's two things that I learned with payroll. One thing to understand is if you're missing payroll, if payroll's not going as expected, then you plus everyone else in the company are not doing their jobs, meaning we're not succeeding as a business. So instead of trying to hide it, you need to have it face on and say, hey, either we have too much people, the wrong people, or they're not doing their jobs, or we're mismanaging money, but at some point, something's got to give. So it's a signal to you. You may miss payroll, it may happen, you'll get over it. People know they're working at startups, so they'll get over it, life will go on, you will recover. But if it happens multiple times, it's a signal that, hey, the money that you are paying to people, it's not actually accretive to the business. So you maybe either need to change up the people or change up the type of people or the roles that you have. There's something that you learn. And that's something I learned the hard way, where it's not the end of the world. You will get past it. You will learn to avoid it. You will learn to have systems on managing cash. But at the same time, if you're coming close to this over and over, at some point you just need to look at it and say, listen, I am paying people that are not delivering results for the business. So it's time to make a change. So that's something for you to think about. That's something I learned. Not being able to raise capital, that's the next one. Same deal. It's always a fear, and your fundraising is the worst. And this is the thing that doesn't change. I've talked to second-time founders, third-time founders, fourth-time founders, fifth-time founders. Fundraising is never fun. Even when you're crushing it, it's never fun. It's always a grueling, unnatural sales process. Not being able to raise is a real fear. And there's two things you can really do about it, like practically. So this is the frame of the veteran speaking. It's like, listen, either we have a great business or we don't. So when in doubt, just focus on making the business better. Focus on getting more customers. Focus on getting the go-to-market working. Focus on adding that feature that's really going to 10x the value for the customers. Focus on figuring out how we can take our happy customers and create case studies. Focus on how to take our happy customers and sell them one more thing. Those are all different levers you have to start getting more cash into the business. When you start to focus on getting more cash into the business, raising money from investors becomes easier, which is kind of counterintuitive because you're like, oh, I need to trick my way into landing that next investment and then I'll be able to make this a business. And maybe that will work for you. But what I found, the best thing to do is just find a way to get more cash into the business, whether it's through expansions, upsells, cross-sells, or even doing discounts or special promotions. You can do any number of things to get more cash, and that creates that little momentum where you can take that to your investors and say, look, here's how we are actually reinvigorating the business. So we want to raise our next round, which is a much better story than, hey, we're about to die. We need some money. Do you want to fund this? And it's like, it's not coming from a position of power. And the biggest thing is with raising money and runway, you always want to find ways to come from a position of power. The minute where you're trying to approach investors and just say like, oh my God, you got to fund this round, otherwise we're going to die. You're not coming from a position of power, but it's like, hey, these are the problems. These are the solutions. These are things that are working. We want to raise this next round. Look, we're probably going to get a discount if you get in now versus later. So here's an upside for you. That's a position of power. You always want to be thinking about how do you just get more cash into the business from the customers and use that as leverage to get the investors excited to raise more capital, whether it's an extension round or bridge round or truly that next round, because you've now got that growth chart going in a direction where you can really make things work. The same principle applies if you're a bootstrap founder. If cash flow is tight, or the growth is not quite there, you can always get creative on how to get more cash into the business. I've never talked to a founder where we couldn't figure out ways where we can run a promotion, run an expansion play, run a renewal play, run a special offer where we couldn't get more cash into the business. It's just bootstrapped or venture-backed or not. So a lot of times founders get this single track mind of, I just got to raise the next round, instead of thinking I can raise money from customers. Let's figure out what they need and let's give it to them. That'll get cash in. That'll actually get momentum going, and then I can raise the next round using that. Number 4, your family resenting the financial risk. As if there aren't enough problems just in running the money in the business, just taking a risk on a startup impacts your own financial life. And it could be your immediate family, like a partner or a spouse, or it could be your extended family, like your parents or your cousins or whatever it is, or your best friends. I struggled with this in the beginning when I was quitting my 6-figure job at Bridgewater. Bridgewater is the largest hedge fund in the world, and I was there when there were only 300 employees. It wasn't even a household name like it is today because they weren't as public about it. I was leaving Bridgewater, and I had been there for 3 years. Most people don't survive there for that long, so they were happy to have me do way more things. I was leaving. Not a single person I talked to, whether it was close friends or family, was supportive about it. And it wasn't their fault. It was my fault for looking at them for support, because it's not that they didn't believe in me. It's just that this is not the level of risk that they would take. Because if that was the case, they would do it themselves. They weren't entrepreneurs. So they weren't used to that level of risk. So people may get resentful about you taking this level of financial risk, but the reason we take this risk, the reason we build these companies is because we really want to take the upside. Because if it was no risk, then everyone would be building successful companies and being wildly successful and making tons of money. So there's a risk reward to this. But the catch is, don't look for validation or support from people that aren't used to that kind of risk. It's not their fault. Don't resent them. They may resent you, they may judge you, but I guarantee when you win, they're going to be fully supportive. They're gonna be like, oh my God, I knew you back in the day. Or, oh my God, I'm glad you did that. That was a brilliant idea. And they may remember it differently. They may rewrite history. That's all okay. That's all okay. Just get yourself around other people that are actually taking that same level of risk. I'm here in Silicon Valley, and I don't really call it Silicon Valley. I know other people do, and depending on where you live in the world, there's really like South Bay and there's San Francisco. I lived in San Francisco, but when I was first quitting my job, Dave McClure said, hey, why don't you come to California for the summer as you get ToutApp off the ground? And I said, I don't know, I'm building in New York. And he's like, we'll put in some more money if you come and do the accelerator. And I was part of batch number 1 of 500 startups. And I moved to Mountain View, that's South Bay. And I spent the summer there. Immediately, I got way more support because I was around people that moved to Mountain View for the summer from all over the world, taking the same type of risk that I was. So everybody was, oh my God, like dialed in. So all of a sudden I didn't feel terrible. And I feel the same energy right now. Say what you will about Silicon Valley or San Francisco or Palo Alto or Mountain View. I'm going up and down all of these. I'm working with founders in sweaty rooms, figuring out all these pieces for their go-to-market. The energy is insane right now because of AI. And why are people coming here to build companies? I'm not saying you have to come here to build a company. I'm just saying, why are the people moving here, the ones that are? It's because everyone's in it. They all get it. They're all taking the same level of risk. And they're like, I'm in it to win it. This is a huge platform shift. Let's go. Let's go. And it's infectious energy. And it's awesome. That's why I'm like, I'm doing 2 offsides back to back. My 3rd offside in 7 days. It's insane. It's insane. But the energy is so good. It feels great. I did need this evening in Half Moon Bay just to kind of de-stress a little bit, film this episode in this like inn that I'm in, which is like kind of a cool vibe. You look, your family may resent you, but don't look to people for validation that aren't taking the same risk as you. Get yourself around other people that are taking the same level of risk. This is one of the reasons for folks that are in my go-to-market program, in my launch program, in my coaching programs, community is a big thing for me. I try to get people in dinners as often as I can. I do these go-to-market immersives. We'll show the pictures over here. I have the online community because I try to connect these founders because I know how lonely it is. Every single time I start a go-to-market immersive, one of the things I always start off with is I tell all the founders, like, hey, listen, we're all here. You're all here in this one room for one single reason. I know how this works. You found me because you were sitting in a dark room and you were trying to figure out how to grow your company. You were looking up AI go-to-market or SaaS go-to-market or go-to-market framework or ideal customer profile, and you saw one of my YouTube videos and you binge watched me for 20 hours, and then you applied to join my program, you filled out the form, you swiped the credit card, and then you joined, and now you're in this room. That's why you're here. So let's just be honest, everyone. No one is killing it. We're all trying to figure it out. We're trying to build incredible companies, so let's go figure it out together. That's how I start this because it sets the tone for the community. That's one of the things that I struggled with, even with family and others. Like, I hated going to startup events also. It was really special to be in that 500 startups batch 1 in my first year because we were around people that had the same ethos of like, hey, let's go figure it out. That was really cool. But I hated going to other startup events because you go to startup events, you talk to some guy, you're like, hey, what are you doing? Like, oh, I'm doing a startup. It's like, oh, cool, how's it going? It's like, oh, we're crushing it. We're killing it. Dude, it's not killing it. I looked it up on Crunchbase. And he's like, how are you doing? I'm like, I don't know, we're figuring stuff out. And I had Andreessen Horowitz as an investor, but people weren't being honest. And it sucked being in those rooms. The way you get over family resenting you, the financial risk, second guessing yourself on whether you're doing it right, is get yourself in communities where other people are taking the same level of risk that you are. And it completely changes the game for you. Now, before we go to number 5 through 14, if you're getting the power of this, by the way, if you're getting value from this, can I just get a yes in the comments below? And also smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm. It just loves it when you do that. And so do we. Even after running a 48-hour go-to-market offsite, I'm recording this episode because I love you guys. This is totally an in-depth episode. We're gonna keep on going. Don't ask me how many cortados I've had, but smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm, and also put a yes in the chat, put your comments in the chat, put your questions in the chat, put an amen in the chat. I love hearing from you guys. Also, if you're in the stage where you are building out your go-to-market strategy, be sure to grab my 5-point startup growth strategy guide. I've revamped this for supporting both AI and SaaS companies, because that's what I'm working on all day today now. And I'll also include a link to this entire checklist inside of that guide as well. I'll link to it below. You don't have to go anywhere right now, but make sure you grab a copy. It's a new updated version supporting AI companies and SaaS companies for 2026 and beyond. Okay, now let's go to number 5, fear. Brutal lessons, nobody wanting the product. We've all been there. Even for the most successful founders, even for me, I went through entire periods where I was working on ideas that nobody wanted. I had fears like, oh my God, these 5 people love it. They're paying for it, but I don't think there's gonna be a big enough market. Or I'm gonna go and sell this. I'm gonna market this. I'm gonna run this campaign and no one's gonna do anything. There's gonna be crickets. Or I'm gonna go on stage and I'm gonna do this presentation and then people are just gonna laugh. This is a real fear. And the thing is, you're probably gonna hit a point where no one wants your product. It's just probably gonna happen. And the minute you expect it versus fear it, the better off you're going to be. The minute you're like, you know what, there's probably gonna be multiple points in time where our ICP is not gonna want our product and we have to pivot. Or we have to add something to the product, or we have to communicate in a different way, or we have to demo it a different way. But it's gonna be okay. It's not gonna be the end. Now I'll tell you what's not gonna be okay. If you're afraid of getting out there, if you're truly hiding from your customers or your prospective customers, if you're hiding from marketing, if you're hiding from sales, because you're afraid that no one's gonna want your product, and you're staying in your comfort zone, and instead all you're doing is adding more features, then you're going to fail. However, if you assume that, hey, whatever I have now, it's pretty crappy. I probably got a bunch of things wrong, but I'm gonna get it out there anyway. And then we're gonna learn. We're gonna figure out why they're saying no and what they would prefer instead. And we're gonna bake that into the product. Then you're gonna get closer to product market fit. The thing that I see founders do is they have, and I've done this too, which is why I recognize it, which is why I'm able to call it out with folks that I work with, is founders are smart. You're smart, I'm smart, we're all smart. Otherwise we wouldn't be doing this. Like we're above smart, like it's just true, just own it. Now the thing is, because we're smart, we can get really creative about deluding ourselves that we are doing go-to-market or we are getting out there and promoting our product and we're not hiding. We're not in the one more feature trap. So sometimes we'll like, oh, I hired that fractional CMO. They're gonna figure out sales and marketing. They're gonna talk to the customers. I'm gonna stay focused on product. That's the same as hiding from customers. Every layer you add between you and your ideal customer in the early stages, and early I mean like up until 3 million ARR, the more time you add to get to product market fit and to scalability. The more layers you add, the more time you add to get to product market fit and get to scalability. Think about that for a second. The more layers you add, the slower the path to actually hitting product market fit, and the less likely you are to hit product market fit, true product market fit. Don't delude yourself. And I say this from a place of love. I say this from a place of I've done this and I don't want you to do it. And I've seen so many founders fail because they hid from customers. It is going to be fact that at a certain point in time, no one will want your product. But the more people you talk to, the more data you get, the more you iterate, you get to a product that people will want. That's how it's gonna go. Then launching new crickets. I've done this. It sucks. I went through multiple products. This happened in my first year where I'm like, oh my God, this is gonna be so huge. And I had a huge mailing list. I had an audience. I've always practiced ICP, Manifest, or Broadway show, which is what I teach in this channel, which is what I help founders implement in my go-to-market programs. I've always practiced it. So I've always had an audience, always had a mailing list. But I have emailed my mailing list with a new feature or with a new promotion. And I'm like, we're gonna sell so much. We're gonna get so many new users. And I got crickets. Fact of life. But guess what? It wasn't the end. We tried, we learned, we iterated. And the biggest thing that really got this going, the launching to crickets, the biggest difference maker was the at-bats. As long as we kept trying new features, new announcements, new marketing angles, new messages, and kept pushing it out in the market and kept listening and kept adapting, as long as we kept that loop going, we eventually hit it. So the only way forward is to actually fail and then keep iterating. The more you hide, the more you're likely to fail. And that's like, it's a huge fear. As soon as you start to take for granted the fact that people are gonna hate your product, they're going to say no, as long as you're like, of course that's gonna happen, the faster you actually get to a working product and a working business. Because you're like, well, of course that's gonna happen. Then we're gonna find what they actually want and we're gonna give it to them. And then it's gonna be awesome. Of course that's gonna happen. That is that frame of the veteran. That's why the second time founder was like, all right, let's just keep at it. Like, we're gonna figure it out. It's gonna get there. And if this doesn't work, we're gonna figure out something else. So that's how you just get over it. Like, you basically just get the at-bats going. Just assume it's gonna fail. Assume it's gonna launch to crickets. But then you're gonna get a bunch of data and the next one's gonna be better. And then better, and then better, and then better. That's how it works. Okay, number 7, Charging too little. This is going to be such a long episode. By the way, if you're still watching, you're still getting value, smash that like button. Put something in the comments. That way I know you're here with me. Charging too little or too much. This is super interesting. Pricing is a black art. I have an entire framework follow when I'm coaching founders on their pricing. And there are companies that I've coached where we've increased prices and win rates went up. Conversion rates went up because people perceive value based on price. Pricing is a black art. There's always this fear of charging too little or too much. The only way to really figure it out is to test. So for example, with ToutApp, I started at $30 a month. And that was scary. That was scary. I'm like, who's gonna pay $30 a month for the product? And I remember when I was launching it, my original plan was $9 a month. And I was talking to my friend Lauren. I knew her from college, and she was like, no, it's for salespeople. If they get one more deal, like they get commission, $30 a month is nothing. It should be 30. I'm like, you know what? She's right. They're gonna make more money on this. They make one more deal, they're gonna earn more. I'm gonna charge $30 a month, and boom, it moved. And I thought it was so awesome. And by the way, thank God, because it's a lot easier to scale a $30 a month product than a $9 a month product, because you just get so much more cash and you can reinvest it in your marketing. But then over time, we took the $30 to $49 and conversion rates went up. We went from 49 to 79. Conversion rates were just about the same, but we earned more per customer. Then we went to 99, and by the time we sold the company, we were charging $125 per seat for sales engagement. And that was insane to me. That was insane to me. You're probably gonna charge too much and too little. It's probably gonna be messed up. What your best thing to do is find one price point that is a little bit higher than you're comfortable with, and make sure that you deliver so much value that people are like, oh, I have to get this. The higher the number you start with, the better off, because that's more money coming in to reinvest into your go-to-market machine, and then little by little ratchet up from there and see what the limits are. And if you hit a point where conversion rate dips and you're making less, then you can ratchet back. You can always go back. And remember, you're just increasing prices for new customers. You just grandfather the old customers. So you're good. There's nothing to lose. No one's going to complain. So don't freak out about it. Number 8, competitors stealing your idea. Oh my God, the number of times I hear this from founders are deluding themselves from launching. They're going to steal my idea. I'm like, listen, if you are successful, there is going to be a long line of competitors. That is what success is. In fact, the definition of success is you have something so valuable, other people are lining up to get a piece of it. That is what success is. That is what you want. You want competitors stealing your idea. You want that. You don't want to hide from that. I don't say this in a preachy way because I have done this too. But then I realized, like, you know what? What I want is success. What I want is everyone using my products. Well, if that is the case, even if I hide it and then all of a sudden overnight I have all these customers, the day right after, there are going to be competitors. And then I'm going to have to figure out how to outcompete them. So if you can shift your frame from I got to hide this so that no one copies me to by the time someone copies me, I'm already going to be ahead. By the time someone copies me, I'm already going to be ahead, because they're just figured out how to copy what I have now, but I'm about to actually leapfrog what I've been doing for my customers. As long as you keep moving forward, you're going to be great, and they're going to be trying to catch up. And that's a much better frame than I got to hide, otherwise they're going to copy me. Is this making sense? Smash that like button and give me a yes in the chat. Amen in the chat. I feel like this episode is going to be insane. All right, let's go to number 9, the product breaking in production. I remember multiple times in my first year where the product broke in production. The first time it broke, I had pushed out this integration with this external API. I pushed it out, and I don't know why this was set up this way, but I pushed it out in the WeWork that I used to work out of. That's where I could deploy stuff, and I left my laptop there. I don't know why. Usually I always carry, I left it there. This was back in the day, so this was the first WeWork building in New York. One of the first WeWork buildings, period. And Adam Newman used to just walk around. In fact, Adam Newman saw a demo of my product ToutApp, and he got me my first angel investor, which was like the most craziest story, probably for another episode. If you want me to tell that story, put crazy first angel investor story in the comments, and I'll do a fundraising episode and talk about that. So I left my laptop there, I went back home, and I was like hanging out, and all of a sudden I got something on my phone saying like tout is down. And I'm like, oh my God, what is going on? And pretty simple service at that point, but we had paying customers and people were unhappy. You don't want a product where people don't realize your site is down. Like that means you don't have product market fit. But when people are angry, then you know you got product market fit. So on one hand, I'm like, oh my God, this really matters. On the other hand, I'm like, oh my God, I got to go back downtown to fix this. And Oh my God, it was such an ordeal. And I figured out what it was. It was this external API that I was using. And for some reason, they did something and that crashed our entire site. It was a complete mess. I actually got into a fight with the co-founder of that API over email while I'm like trying to go downtown. It was horrible. And I wasn't proud of that email, but I was so frustrated. And my partner at the time was not giving me any grace on what I was dealing with. And that was really terrible. It just sucked. But you know what? We came back online. I went down, I fixed it, I did a rescue nil. And that way, if the API fails, it would silently fail. And it would keep going. And it was back online. The second time it broke, all of AWS went down. Like literally AWS was just down. And therefore anything on AWS was down. And therefore we were down. And so literally we were telling our customers like, well, we're fine, but AWS is down. We're working on fixing it. It's going to break. Things are going to go wrong. I remember we raised our Series B, led by Andreessen Horowitz. We hired our VP of engineering. And I'm in a meeting and the site broke. And none of the engineers can figure out how to fix it. Like they're all looking and the site is down. And at this point, we have like 10,000 active users, 100,000 registered users. It was insane. And I'm onboarding the VP of engineering and I'm like, hey, I gotta go look into this. And I logged into the console, I'm looking through the dev, I'm looking at it with Steven, who was our first engineer that joined. And we found the bug and we rolled out a fix. And the VP of engineering looks at me like wide-eyed. He's like, wait, you can code? And I'm like, wait, you can't? And that was like, oh, so that's also for another story, but it breaks at all stages and it's probably gonna break, but you'll always recover because here's the thing. Every single time we went back to our customers and said, hey, we're really sorry about that. Here's what we're doing to make sure it doesn't happen again and we're gonna try our best. And every single time the customers were like, hey, you guys are awesome. This is a great product. So just keep at it. I know it's tough. And we got grace. We got grace from our customers and your customers will give you grace. And it'll also tell you if you're building something of true value because if it's down and no one realizes, sorry, man, no one cares about your product and that sucks. Like, so you'll be fine. Number 10, not being able to scale the tech. Not to repeat myself, but it's probably gonna happen. And it's gonna be a little painful, but then you'll always find a way forward, right? Like you're starting to see the pattern here. Your greatest fears, if you were to write them down, just assume. In fact, you can go grab my 5-point SaaS growth strategy guide and get a link to this thing. You can print it out. And in the first year, you will probably have crossed off all of these. And at the end of it, you'll still tell yourself like, oh, I would still do this again. It's totally worth it. And I know what to do next time. That's how you're gonna feel. And I'm trying to short circuit that for you by telling you like what's gonna happen. There's gonna be points where what worked fine and took 10 milliseconds now takes a minute. It's just gonna happen under the load. The thing that I learned is it's actually really fun trying to figure out how to optimize code. It gets addictive. I learned a bunch of stuff when we were going through our scale period where, you add certain gems and in the log file, you had a Rails backend, it would tell you how many milliseconds a certain action took. You could run a command, it'll tell you what the most expensive ones are. And so we literally just printed out a list of the most expensive endpoints. And we said, all right, let's go one at a time and make it fast. And between adding memcached, between adding the Russian doll caching approach, which is super fun, between adding Elasticsearch, little by little, you just see those numbers go down and those queries perform better. And it's addictive. It's super cool. It's super fun. In a weird way, it will break, but then that period of time where you figure out how to make it go faster and better using common methodologies, which aren't that complicated, it is just super fun. So just look forward to it. Like it's gonna be fun. And again, remember, congratulations. This is a great problem to have. It would be a dream come true for so many founders to be dealing with a problem where so many people want their product that the tech can't keep up. So just remember, like, give yourself some grace and have fun with it. It's gonna be awesome. I had a lot of fun with it. Number 11, hiring the wrong person. I had this one guy, his name is Rich, and we hired him as our VP of sales. And 3 weeks later, he resigned. And it was the worst thing to do. He got blacklisted in our VC firms, so no one would hire him again. But it was like a dick thing to do. But at the end of the day, I hired the wrong person. I could look in his eyes. Now I know it. I could look in his eyes, and we were a Series B company, and we needed to scale. And I could look in his eyes. He was one of those rock star guys. Like his last company exited, he made some money. I could look in his eyes, and I could tell this guy did not have it in him to work that hard again. He was literally too rich. At that time, baby TK didn't know, but now I know. Now I know how to read execs that I'm recruiting or people that I'm recruiting, and I can tell who's in it to win it, who's got another run under their belt, who's not had a big win yet, so this is gonna be the one where they get their big win. I can tell, and I couldn't tell at that time, so I hired the wrong person. And it's really hard to recover from a failed VP of sales hire when you're in the scale stage. Really hard, really, really hard. It nearly killed us, but we found a way forward. And then I learned how to make sure you don't hire the wrong people. And that made a huge difference. So just know there's ways to read people. There's ways to do background checks. There's ways to trust your gut. Like your gut will tell you if it's the right person. Even with all of that, you're probably going to hire the wrong person at least once, if not more. But you'll learn from it and you'll find a way forward. There's always going to be a way forward. You know, this is one of the things that I tell people, especially when I'm coaching them. I call the company Unstoppable. It's not called Unstoppable because we're perfect. We're not just like, we got everything figured out and everything's great. That's not what Unstoppable, that's not what the ethos of Unstoppable is. In fact, you know, if you go to any of my stuff, like right below, I actually say belief times discipline makes you unstoppable. What Unstoppable is even though all these things are gonna get in the way, we're gonna find the way forward. We're gonna have belief that we're gonna achieve our goal. We're gonna be disciplined that we're gonna keep at it. That's what makes you unstoppable. It's not knowing everything or figuring it out or making it perfect. That's impossible. Only 1% of companies actually succeed, of startups. You're already pursuing the impossible. There's no way you can be perfect. However, you increase your likelihood of success if you have belief and you have discipline, and that's what makes you unstoppable. So you're probably gonna make a mistake, but you're gonna find a way forward. And what I'm trying to teach you is how to find the way forward and how to have the ethos, not be afraid of it, and just keep going at it. One of the things that I did, this was a little bit more recent, for my 40th birthday. I love BMW M cars. I have an M5 that I bought. I love that car. It's like 10 years old. Some things went wrong with it because it's like 10 years old, but I still love that car and I have to like get stuff under control with it. But incredible car. Like, and the M5 is like the best car ever. I went to this BMW M driving school where you get into all these M cars and you drive them on the track. And these race car drivers train you on how to go at fast speeds in these M cars and truly understand what. One of the tracks is where you're on a wet track and you're driving, and it's a M2, and the race car driver's next to you, the driver's next to you, the professional driver. You're driving on a circle on a wet track, and they pull on the e-brake, the emergency brake, at a random time. They pull on it, and your job is to recover the car. And that's like one of the first things they have you do after the classroom. Why do they do that? They're like, look, things are gonna go wrong. So we're gonna manufacture something going wrong and you're gonna practice recovering the car. It's a wet track, so you have to do a hard right and a left and like go back in control. It trains you to deal with high stakes situations and not lose your cool and just find a way to recover. And I learned so much from that driving track. And then you move on to the other tracks where you're doing your times. And one of the things that they taught you is, this is what they teach every race car driver. They teach you is, if your car is going out of control and you're going to the wall, you want to move your eyes to not the wall, but where you want the car to go, because you're recovering. Part of that trick is when the car is out of control, then naturally you're like, oh my God, I'm going to hit that wall. So you stare at the wall. Don't do that. You want to stare at where you want the car to go. So you want the car to go there, you stare there, and you start to recover the car there. Whichever way you look, that's where the car is eventually going to go. And the reason I wanted to give you these 14 is, if you're scared of any one of these things happening, then that's where you're gonna go. But if you are flipping these and saying, oh, even if that happens, I'm gonna go do this and we'll be fine, we'll get over it, then you're focusing on where you wanna go, which is your ultimate goal. So instead of being scared, you just focus on where you want the car to go. And that's super powerful. And that's what I really want for you in this episode. That's what I do when I'm coaching founders. You know, one of the best parts about coaching founders is they come to me with the most horrifying things that have happened. Co-founders have died. Investors are playing dirty. All kinds of crazy things. And I've dealt with all kinds of crazy things. I've dealt with all of those things. And I think the reason is, it's kind of funny. I don't know how to feel about it, but I think a lot of founders like come to me with it is because most certainly at this point, across my companies, across being an operator, across coaching over 300 companies, I've heard a lot. There's so much pattern matching. So every single time I'm like, oh, this is not that bad. Oh, okay. Yeah, that happened. All right, cool. Well, here's like 3 things you need to know. We navigated this with 3 other companies. Here's how we're going to deal with it. And all of a sudden they're calm. And part of it is the pattern matching because I've just like seen so much. But part of it is reframing the founder to like, well, let's just figure out what we want and let's like now drive to that. And that makes a huge difference. So that's what I'm trying to get you guys to do. If you're getting value from this and you're still watching, oh my God, this episode is gonna be so long. Smash that like button if you haven't already and put something in the comments. I wanna hear from you. All right, number 12. If you're watching right now and you're at number 12, put 12 in the comments. No one's gonna know what those comments are except it's gonna be a bunch of 12s, but it's gonna be cool. Not being able to hire anyone good. I'll be honest, for a long time, I didn't think I was deserving enough for great people to work for me. I didn't think I was good enough, or I'm like, well, why would they want to work for me? Like, I don't know if I'm that great. There's a lot to unpack there. Eventually, I worked through that. Even at my Series B, I had the best venture capital firm backing me. I was in recent backed. I was an in recent founder. I was creating a category. All of San Francisco was using our product. People loved Tout. Oh my God. We had a brand. It was insane. And even then, I'm like, I don't know. Like, I don't know if that person would want to work for me, like, or work with me. I don't know if we're good enough. You second guess yourself. That's a fear that we're not good enough. But then like I learned that that's the whole point. You're not supposed to hire people that are worse than you. You're supposed to attract people that are better than you. In fact, you have to go to them and say, hey, listen, you're better than me at this. But this is an incredible opportunity and you're gonna make it even better. And that's why you should join. And the moment I started to approach people in that way, in that frame, everything changed for me in recruiting. And that's how I look at it now. Like the whole point is to get people better and acknowledge like, hey, you're better than me at this. You're the best at this. Come figure it out. And sometimes it's not necessarily the person that's the quote unquote rock star. Sometimes it's the up and comer. My VP of sales, not the shitty guy, not rich that quit in 3 days, total quitter, but the one that like got me 300% growth, she was incredible. But she wasn't a VP of sales. In fact, no one was giving her the VP slot. No one was giving her a shot in town. She was just stuck at director. And she was working tirelessly for this other guy, and he just refused to make her VP, even though she was doing the job. So I went to her, I took her out for lunch. I remember it was in Palo Alto somewhere. And I was like, hey, listen, I think you're ready. I want you to be my VP. I just raised my Series A, and I want you to be my VP. And that year, she delivered 300% growth. She did. Sometimes it's not the rock star, sometimes it's the up and comer, but it's still your job to recognize that your job is to get the people that are better than you. And they want to work for people that are willing to recognize that. They're willing to recognize, like, hey, I'm not as good at this as you are, and you're gonna be incredible. It's your time. Come do this. And that's how you recruit the great people. Early employees leaving. You know, I've been blessed. I have 2 stories on this one. When I first started Tout, there's this one guy that flew out to Mountain View with me for batch 1, 500 startups. And I gave him a good amount of equity in the company. And I'm like, hey, you're gonna be my CTO. I knew how to code. And that summer, we rented out this Avalon in Mountain View. Mountain View has this Avalon. It's still there. We rented out this apartment there and I rented furniture. And the 2 bedrooms, he stayed in one, I stayed in the other. And the living room was our office. And we had one mobile developer. And we were like, it was a sweatshop. It was crazy. And we cranked through that summer, and it was an incredible summer. But at the end of the summer, 3 months in, I'm like, all right, we're gonna build out the company in San Francisco. And he was like, hey man, I'm out. Like, I'm not doing this. And at that moment, I'm like, oh my God, like, what am I gonna do? And I said, all right, well, he left. I decided like, I'm gonna keep going, obviously. I can code, like screw it. I built majority of this product. And because that happened, I ended up hiring someone else, Steven Steffen, and I've known him. He's a dear friend of mine, and we work together. We've been through the trenches, and we're building companies now. I hired him. He entered my life. And that never would have happened if that first guy didn't leave. Thank God that first guy left because something even better came. So people will leave, but then also people will stay. With Tout App, there was this like first 6 people. It was like 6 of us, 6, 7, like 7 of us, like that took the company to $1 million ARR. It was 7 of us. We took it to $1 million, and they stayed. They stayed the entire time, all the way till the end. I felt so blessed that they did that, and you know they made that entire journey worthwhile. So some people will leave, but some people will stay. You'll never be able to tell which ones right away, and at the end you'll just be blessed. You'll just be like, thank God for these people. All these terrible things happen. The reason we keep going is because so many great things happen. I remember like one time this happened multiple times. Like I was walking through the airport. You know how you see people's screens? On someone's screen, I saw Tout App. And I'm like, oh my God, that's cool. Nothing beat visiting a customer and you'd walk through the sales floor and every screen was Salesforce and the ToutApp live feed. That was cool. That was worth it. But you know what like really made it worth it? Like even the tough times, and there were so many dark days, the people. The people made it worth it. So those people that stuck with you, those people that put in their blood, sweat, and tears with you, totally worth it. And I get a text at least once a month from someone that worked with me in the past. And I don't share this to boast or anything at all. I get texts from people that worked with me that loved their journey and they were like, I'm so grateful. And I also get people like, they were like, at the time I hated it. But looking back, I see how special that was. Like it pushed me. That environment pushed me to become a better person and a better performer. So thank you for that. That's really special. So people are gonna leave, screw them. But some people are gonna stay and it's gonna be totally worth it. And the people is what makes this whole thing really worth it. And the last one, still feeling alone as a founder. So for me, this is particularly unique because at ToutApp, I was a solo founder. Even with all the employees that we had, and there's some people that became post founders, like they just stepped up like founders and they were there by my side. There's some people that did that for a little bit and left. There's some people that stayed till the end. Even through all of that, at the end of the day, even with a team, you are just gonna feel alone as a founder. And even sometimes, co-founder divorces is one of the biggest killers of startups. Even with a co-founder, you may feel alone. And that is just the cost of greatness. It just is the cost. You're gonna have to pay it. If you're not willing to pay it, then you don't get to play the game. So sometimes you are gonna feel alone. Now in my life, I've learned I have some best friends that I've known for decades now, and I count on them. I have a love in my life who is ride or die with me, and I count on her, even as I'm going through this journey now. So I feel less alone, which is awesome. But at the same time, and it was much worse before because I didn't know how to deal with all of that. Now I have rituals, and I teach this to the founders that I coach also. I have rituals to navigate the ups and the downs. At the same time, no matter what, no one else is gonna get it. They're just not, because it's your company and you're putting so much into it. No one else is just gonna get it, and that's okay. That's okay, that's the price to pay for greatness, and we're in it for greatness. What we are working to accomplish is insane. But it's gonna be worth it when we pull it off. So that's number 14. So those are the 14 horrifying, brutal things that are gonna go wrong. And I guarantee you can go grab my guide, you can print this out, print it out. You'll be able to check all of these off in the first couple of years of being a founder, probably the first year. But hopefully what you got out of all of this is there's always going to be a way forward. It's never gonna be the end. Hopefully you are starting to see that the more you fear it, the more it's going to cripple you. So put your eyes on where you wanna go, not the thing that you fear. You'll find a way. If it happens, we'll figure it out. We will figure it out. There's always a way forward. One of the last things that I learned in that driving school, my time was just like not coming in on time. We had these walkie-talkies, the instructors were watching. And I'm like, hey man, like what do I need to know? He's like, TK, you need to raise your line of vision. You need to raise your line of vision. And I'm like, what do you mean by that? He's like, well, you're so fixated on this next curve. You're not thinking about where you're headed. Like just raise your eyelids a little bit to what happens past the next curve. So maybe you raise the seed round and you're trying to figure out your go-to-market and you want to get to that next stage, you want to raise your A. I was with a founder, he's at 500K ARR. We did a full 2-day offsite figuring out how they're going to get to 3 million, how they're going to figure out their ICP, manifesto, their Broadway show, and then they're going to raise their Series A. Tomorrow, I'm with a founder who started with me when she was at 80K. Now she's breaking 3 million and we're talking about how to get to 10 million. Sometimes you get so fixated on just like the blocking and tackling, you got to raise your line of sight and think about, well, we got to get to 3 million. Then we can think about 10. Or we're at 3, now we need to think about 10, not like how to go from 3 to 4. There's these nuances to how to approach this. We got to raise your line of vision. And that makes a huge difference when you're building out and playing this game. So that's what I had for you all today. I hope this is okay. This is a much more in-depth video. We try to do these where I just speak from the heart and I share, and right now I'm in Half Moon Bay in between 2 go-to-market offsites. And I was like, you know what? All I need to do is just film this episode, and then I'm gonna go work out and then relax and have a nice dinner in Half Moon Bay somewhere. And then I'm gonna do this offsite and I'm gonna go back to Dallas and I'm gonna run a bunch of strategy sessions for founders in my go-to-market program. So let's just like speak from the heart. In a way, this is what makes me really happy, to share with other founders, because I know the twists and turns in the road. And I've been through it, and I know how grueling it can be. And I wish something like Unstoppable existed when I was going through it, and that's why I created it. And I just wanted to share this with you. So if you got value from this, please smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm. If you're a founder, go-to-market is the biggest thing that solves all the problems in your company. The more customers, the more revenues, the more you're able to solve all these other issues. So you need a proper go-to-market strategy. So if you're working on that, grab a copy of my 5-point startup growth strategy guide. Just go to getunstoppable.com/strategy. I drop an episode every single Sunday with actionable strategies and tactics from the trenches on how to grow your business faster. And I'm working with AI founders and SaaS founders. So be sure to hit that subscribe button and that bell icon that you'll get notified every single time I drop an episode. And lastly, remember, everyone needs a strategy for their life and their business. When you are with us, yours is going to be unstoppable. I'm TK, and I'll see you in the next episode. Take care, everybody. Oh man, that was a long one.